We're all speaking a language that is hidden from most people. What is it, and why is it a game changer? Keep watching. This is Life Mastery Gym. I'm Damon, and I teach people just like you cutting-edge NLP processes and techniques to help you master your life and take charge of your destiny. So if that sounds good, please click the subscribe button so you can get these videos on a regular basis. Your words only actually make up about 30% of what you're communicating. How influential and persuasive could you be if you could understand the other 70% of what other people are communicating, but most people are missing? For example, when I say you should like this video and subscribe to this channel, what I'm really saying is you should like this video and subscribe to this channel, and I need you to love me. When I started learning NLP and I started developing and cultivating my sensory acuity and my calibration skills, it was like a whole new world opened up. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video today. And if you find that I've communicated this well, both verbally and non-verbally, you might want to check out the free training that's at the end of the video, but I'll talk more about that later. If you already know what sensory acuity is, or if you don't, I would love to hear from you. Please let me know in the comments below. Sensory acuity and calibration are usually taught at the beginning of an NLP practitioner training, but rarely do the teachers emphasize this training, which is really sad because what ends up happening is most of the students end up really going after processes and techniques. They really want to learn processes and techniques and only focus on that as if the processes and techniques possess some sort of magic, but this is simply not true. The magic is really in your abilities and your skills, and the process in many ways is just a way for you to organize your skills. And of course, yes, there is the processes and the techniques do have to do with the landscape of our psychology, the landscape of how we think, how we emote. So I'm not trying to put down the processes and techniques, but without really knowing or not really cultivating NLP skills like sensory acuity and calibration, you rarely can make the techniques and the processes work. A lot of times I would see NLP students really struggling with this and really getting frustrated because sometimes the processes and techniques worked and sometimes they didn't. They were getting these haphazard results, and it was so obvious to me that it was because they had never cultivated sensory acuity and calibration skills. In fact, sometimes when they were practicing the processes with other students, their face was more buried in their book rather than looking at the person before them. And there's so much more information that that person is giving you than what you can find in a book. Now, of course, if you're practicing for the first time, you do have to look at your book to follow the instructions, but look at your book, see the question that you're supposed to ask the person next, or see what the step is, memorize that next step, then look at the person, and then do it so that you can gather this information and you can be more attentive and see and hear what nonverbal information this person is giving you. Prolific author and one of my favorite authors, Robert Greene, he wrote The Laws of Human Nature, The 48 Powers, and Mastery, one of my favorites. He describes this sensory acuity as being able to read nonverbal communication. He says the importance of being able to read nonverbal communication is that your nonverbals don't lie. So I can lie to you with my words. I can feel one thing, but say I feel something else, or I can think one thing and say another thing because I can consciously lie with my verbal language, but the body doesn't lie. It emotes, or it gives off or expresses different feelings, and you can start to read this. You could start to see this. Milton Erickson, the father of modern hypnosis, was an absolute master at this. He was bedridden as a teenager, and so he spent years in bed. And while he was in bed, all he had was his five senses. And so he started listening and seeing at a heightened level because that's all he could do. The founders of NLP, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, went to model him. They noticed that he had this extraordinary ability. And it wasn't just some sort of like magic trick, or it wasn't just some sort of odd, bizarre ability. They recognized right away that this gave him an incredible advantage with his clients. It was almost as if he knew what his clients were thinking better than the clients themselves. And the reason for this is a lot of what's happening for us that's coming out in our nonverbal communication is unconscious. And when something is unconscious, well, we're not aware of it. But imagine you could see through someone's nonverbal communication, their body language, their breathing, their voice tone, that you could tell better what was going on inside of them, that they were maybe incongruent. They weren't basically saying what it was that they were feeling, and that you could see in their nonverbal communication that they were feeling something that they were not expressing with words. When you think about that, what advantages could you have when you're doing therapy with someone, when you're coaching someone, even when you're doing sales with someone? You're being clued into a hidden language that most people are not tuning into. And this is extraordinarily powerful when you start doing this. If you could read people that way, just imagine how well you could influence them. And speaking of, that's why probably most people want to learn NLP, and it might even be why you tuned into this video and you watch my other videos, is because you want to learn more NLP to be more persuasive and more influential. Well, I'm going to be making a new video on that. I've made several videos on it. I'll be making a new video on that, and by the time you're watching this video, it might already be out, which means I have linked it to probably this side of the screen, but it might be this side of the screen. Sometimes things get flipped around. But if you look in one corner of the screen, you should find that video, so check it out. You might be thinking, well, Damon, what are some examples of nonverbals? What are some examples of sensory acuity and calibration? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you right now. These things can be anything from breathing, noticing someone's breathing, noticing how a person's eyes move, noticing their posture, whether they moved from one side to the other, or their posture is leaned to one side or the other. It also has to do with their gestures. Are my gestures symmetrical, or are they asymmetrical? A lot of times when a person is incongruent or conflicted about something, their gestures will be asymmetrical. There's also skin tone. People's skin can turn red or pale. There's micro expression, so you got the big expressions like this if I'm smiling. But you also have these tiny micro expressions that can happen in the muscles in the face. There's also differing colors in a person's face, and skin changes color. And it's very subtle, so we don't often catch it. So most of the time, and you may be a student like this, most of the time NLP students, they start practicing this. They're taught it, and like I said, early on in an NLP practitioner training. So they give it a try, they do some of these practices. They don't see anything, they don't hear anything different. So they think it's pointless, and then they just move on. And like I said, they often go chasing the processes and techniques, but they've skipped over a very, very valuable skill, the cultivation of one of the most important skills you can possibly cultivate in NLP. So what I would say to you is keep practicing. If you just practice it a little bit longer, that deeper communication will start to reveal itself. Now, how will it reveal itself? It'll come to you in ways that you're probably not expecting. You're not going to just get this voice coming out of nowhere saying, you know, this is what's going on with this person. No, it will start to arise in you as intuitions, as insights, as these kind of random thoughts, but they come up and then you realize that, no, they really do connect to this person. You'll start to see incongruences, which can lead you to actually spotting deception. I've been able to do that several times. It worked really well when I was hiring employees, to ask them questions and notice if they were incongruent or even being deceptive. Their nonverbals will betray their language. If they're saying one thing but they know something else, or that it's not right, their unconscious has to reconcile that. And in reconciling it, you will see this come out as in some form of nonverbal communication. It's like maybe when a person is lying, their voice tone shifts, or maybe they shift their body, or maybe they blink an eye, or only one eye. Sometimes you have to test them. And one way that I would do that a lot of times is I would tell someone, I would say, I have an intuition about you. I'm getting this idea, and I would say whatever it is, and just observe them. Before they would say yes or no, I would observe their body, or I'd observe their nonverbals and see if it was congruent with what I just said before they would even speak. Because when you ask a person a question, you can actually, especially if it's a yes or no question, you can usually tell what the answer is before they actually say it, because their nonverbal will give it away. And another important reason to cultivate this ability is you will make people feel like they've known you forever. This builds so much rapport and trust. And the reason for this is, again, you're not just listening to their words, you're seeing them and hearing them with a lot more attention, and they will feel this. And so they're being felt, they will feel like they're being heard and seen in a way that most people never hear them or listen to them or never see them, because most people don't pay that much attention to anyone else. We're often more concerned about our own thoughts and what we're going to say next than paying attention to the other person. So when you completely open yourself to this communication and you're seeing and hearing what most people don't listen to and what most people don't see, unless that person is hiding something, they're going to really open up to you, and this will build rapport rapidly. And another great thing about cultivating these skills is there's really no end to it. You can just keep working at this and going deeper and deeper with it, and creating a level, an ability to communicate with people on such a deep level. And I know people who have gotten really good at this. This is like something they would practice every single day for many years. And people start to think that they're psychic, but of course they're not. And these same people will tell you that no, indeed, they're not psychic, that they're just really good observers. Sensory acuity is like the Matrix. It's difficult to describe, which is what I've attempted to do in this video, but a lot easier to experience, a lot easier to understand when you experience it. So what I have for you is a sensory acuity training, a 30-day free sensory acuity training. When you click the link in the description right here below, or in the comments below, you'll see the link that it's there. Just click on that and enroll, and you'll get an email a day that gives you an instruction on what to practice. And I chunked it down very well so that it's not overwhelming, and you can take it a piece at a time for up to 30 days. And at the end of that 30 days, you will notice it's like a whole new world opens up to you. You'll see and hear a world of communication that wasn't available to you before. One of my mentors, Jason Fladland, always says that real learning doesn't happen until behavior changes. So what are you going to do with what you've learned in this video? Let me know in the comments below. I will respond to you. While you're down there, make sure you get access to your free sensory acuity and calibration training. And if you found this video helpful and you liked it, make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. If you know anyone who you think would like this video and would find it helpful, make sure you share it with them. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. So what are you going to do now? Someone who you think would find if you found well, make sure you like, subscribe, crush, burn.